the movie begins with a plane landing, a passenger jet landing in Orlando, Florida. Oh, I should say the opening credits do not feel like an Ernest Saves Christmas movie.
Not at all. Yeah, that was very. I like
contrast
sure
that with Ernest Scared Stupid, where it's like Ernest being scared of stuff while a very weird song plays in the background and him going "oh" at the camera, right? And this is Norman Rockwell paintings of Santa with elaborate script of all the people's names and everything over a beautiful choral rendition of "Oh Christmas Tree." And I think that they edited around a different way. They wanted to start with Santa, but I think it's obvious that in the script it's "Oh Christmas Tree" is being sung by this beautiful choir. Later in the movie, after the first scene, we meet Ernest for the first time, and he's driving a cab singing "Oh Christmas Tree, oh 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 Christmas Tree." And that was a running gag with my brother. We would sing that like when my so my parents, who are just giant dorks, and I love them, but like, okay, everybody, it's Christmas Eve. Let's sit around the Christmas tree and all sing Christmas carols. And if they asked me or my brother to pick one, we always picked "Oh Christmas Tree, oh Christmas Tree." So anyway, I'm positive that it was supposed to go from the choral rendition to Ernest's rendition, but they put a thing in the middle because they thought it actually worked better meeting Santa first. Anyway, Santa, obviously Santa. Who else could it possibly be? Although he is not quite as rotund as your normal Santa. He's a little, very sweet old man with a big white beard, in a suit, and he gets off the plane with somebody. And he's like, and they're just chatting like you would, getting off a plane with a stranger if you're a very nice man. And they're talking about how the other guy is in town on business from Toronto. I was like, "Where are you from?" "Up north." "Oh, me too. I'm from Toronto." Which is how you know he's not actually from Toronto.
Yeah.
Jimmy Van will tell you, you got to say Toronto. And that because there's no T, and the O is not really an O. But that guy, I guess maybe he's not born and raised in Toronto, but maybe he lives there. Anyway, they just start talking, and there's a very fun little back and forth about business guy talking to Santa in terms of business. Like, I have trouble now remembering who ordered a toy truck and who wanted a bicycle. Yeah, sounds like a database problem. Like, just the back and forth, very clever, very sweet. And it's like, you know what I'd like for Christmas? Snow. And Santa says, "Oh, I could have sworn you wanted a CD player. I'll make a note of that, Snow." That I love. Douglas Seal, who plays Santa, is one of those things of like, it's not what I would expect Santa to be. Ho 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 is not him at all, and yet it is the most true and honest performance of the idea behind what Santa Claus should be that I think I've ever seen in a movie. Like, it's just, it's so, for lack of a better term, earnest in its portrayal of who this guy is, man. It's really great. It is
really fun. It's a very different take. And it's funny because you probably know the sequencing on this too, of like which Ernest movies came out when. But like at this time, it felt like there were tons of Christmas movies coming out and tons of slapstick comedy coming out. And this still had its own voice. Like, it still found its way to be its own thing in all of that. It feels very, very different than some of the other Ernest movies that I remember seeing, and way different than a lot of the Christmas things that are playing. But I loved this rendition of Santa. I thought it was super fun. And you're right, like a very distinct little Santa. I loved it.
Yeah. He's going through customs, and his passport says Santa Claus. And I'm just wondering how it got issued, by what government facility. He's like the guy working behind the counter looks and sees all manner of late 1980s stereotypical weirdos and goes, sure, why not? It's Christmas, ain't it? And it's like, and then Santa goes, thanks, Skippy, because he remembers what he was called when he was a little boy, and that's sweet. And then he gets out there, and so this is all intercut with meeting Ernest, sing No Christmas Tree, and then a guy who's in the backseat of his cab says, hey, hurry up, buddy, I gotta get to the airport, in the most generic, like, I am a traveler who is in a hurry. It's very good stuff.
I am in a rush to get to the airport. Yeah.
To the airport. But Ernest weaves through traffic. Ernest P. Worrell, thrill driver, he says. And in weaving in and out, the door flies open, and the guy who's in the bench seat in the back, sliding back and forth between the doors, finally slides out, falls off the freeway, and Ernest, to nobody, because there's nobody in the car, says, you should always use best practices when driving on the freeway. You'll notice my rear hazard emergency lights are flashing to indicate that I am backing up, as everybody flies around behind him. It's great. And so he runs out and picks up the
camera shot of him in the back too, of him just sliding back and forth.
So good.
Like, he doesn't want to. It felt like, you know, when you're in a situation where you're like, if I say something, it's gonna make it so much worse. I could read that on this guy's face of like, I'm just trying to survive to get to the airport. It was really, really fun and well done.
Really good stuff. He picks up I warned him about that seatbelt, which is great because it's wonderful. Blame the victim, Ernest. But he throws him in there and gets him to the airport, and the guy's still frozen. Sorry, I should mention, the guy's not hurt. He's just completely catatonic and frozen in fear. So when Ernest picks him up, he's completely stiff. And he puts him in the back seat, and he falls over again, completely stiff. And when Ernest pulls him out of the car, he's still completely stiff. So he ended up falling into the baggage belt that leads into the where the sky caps are. And Ernest also yanks all of the luggage out of the trunk, which rips open, and there's all kinds of things that fall over the place. It's very funny.
It is funny, the scene, like, very early, but it did make you realize, like, even that passenger with him being catatonic and him sliding around in the back seat, because it's such a wonderfully weird little thing. Like, it doesn't take kind of all of these performances, no matter how big or small, have to kind of be spot on, because like you're contrasted against Ernest, right? And it's like it's such its own alley that if you don't work with it, like you could throw the whole film off with one bad little scene. It's impressive how well executed everybody's part is. It's really fun. Yeah.
Well, one false note will make the whole thing collapse. Anyway, he's obviously in trouble with a lot of people because he's drove into the airport at 100 miles an hour, nearly killing people, which they frown upon if you haven't seen it happen. So he knows he's in trouble, and so then we have Santa Claus, taxi, and it's like, Mister, I'm a taxi, come on, and they sprint into the car and drive off. So they're on the freeway, and they call themselves like, it's like Santa is shielding his eyes, and he says, is the sun getting to you? Yes, it's not usually as bright at night. I'm usually here at night. Like, are you a vampire? But I want to drink your blood. Yeah. Anyway, so Ernest gives these 3D glasses, very cute, very, very earnest. And they get to talking about stuff. Talking about Christmas and how much Ernest loves it when he was a kid and all this stuff. It's very sweet. And then Ernest says, "You know who you remind me of? And he says, Santa Claus? I bet you get that a lot, huh? Yeah, well, it comes with the territory. Because you look like him? And he says, because I am him. And then Ernest does a wonderful triple take with this beautiful smile on his face and goes, because you am him. Okay. And I love that Ernest thinks to himself the way everybody does in this movie at first blush. Oh, this guy's crazy. But it's not like judgmental or weirded out by it. Just like, oh, poor guy. Isn't that sweet? The guy thinks he's Santa. You know, like it's a very nice, he doesn't believe him, but he doesn't judge him for it, which is a really cool contrast to literally everybody else that comes across Santa in this movie.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.